In this video, we're going to look at the channel option. So we go into the bottom left and we click on Setup. We enter our password like this and we're into the unit. So here's our channel options. So in here we can see the IP channels. You can search in here. Obviously I've already added them in a previous video, but if there was any additional cameras that could be added, they can be searched. These are for auto channels, which means they're connected to PoE. So you can see I've only got one connected to PoE at the minute, and that's pulling 4 watts of power, and we've got a power surplus of 71. I'll go back to IP channels. If I wanted to make this a manual channel because it's on the network, I can click here. I can switch that to manual and click OK, and you'll see that now allows me to either add it manually or search. Under the live view options here, you can see the channels that we've got, and here you can rename the camera. So we can just delete that from there. If we want it to be a covert camera, we can click this here, and that would make it a covert camera. And here we can adjust the date format and the time format, whether we want to show the time and its refresh rate. 50 Hertz is correct for the UK. And in here we can actually go into the setup of the camera itself, which are basically the same options we've pretty much seen already, but here we can adjust the hue, the brightness, the contrast, saturation and sharpness, or we can just set them to default, and always remember to apply the setting. Right, so then just right click out of there and that will bring you back to the other menu. Obviously if we change the name of the camera, we obviously click apply there. Under image control, here you can see the settings. So you've got your quick setup here, which is that this camera is set to full color mode, which means it will stay color at night. We've got IR cut mode, lens flip, angle flip, etc. So I'll play around with channel 1. So in here you can see it's currently set as image mode. I could change that to color mode. That has just brought on the white lights. If I wanted to have it in black and white mode, I can select black and white here, or I could use scheduled black and white here, and then that would tell, I can select here what time it starts to go in black and white and what time it ends. I've also got something called Smart IR or manual. So Smart IR, it will adjust its IRs by itself. For manual, you've got control over the beam here, so you will have what's called a low beam and possibly a high beam depending on the camera that you use. Here we've got lens flip, which will obviously adjust the image, and we can also adjust the angle here as well. And we've got something called corridor mode, which is used if you're in a corridor environment, and obviously that sort of stretches out the image. And we can also here, we can adjust the image 180 degrees. And here we've got exposure compensation, 3D noise reduction. Everything here is already set as auto, which should be fine. And then obviously once you're finished here, you can just right click and come back out. Under PTZ, here we can see we've got one camera that does support PTZ. It's not actually a PTZ, it's an autofocus camera, but obviously that's telling us that we can control that camera. We've got video cover. So if I wanted to enable a privacy area, for example, this could be my neighbour's drive, which we don't want to record. I can select that, move this across to the area that we want, like so. Click here, and maybe just apply that. This is for motion setup. So here, obviously, we can set up motion detection. It uses a grid system. So I could say, let's add this. Anything lit up in red means that is a motion detection area. So we could highlight certain areas or draw lines, for example. We've got switch, which is tell you is either basically on or off, and sensitivity goes from level 1, which is the lowest, to number 8, which is the highest. I would say start at around 3 and probably go to a maximum 5, and that's a good sort of starting point. SMD by recorder, so you've got 3 options here. You've got motion, which will basically pick up any movement in the image itself, but it will pick up things like trees moving, etc. We can then do pedestrian, so that would only pick up pedestrians, or we could do vehicle, so it will only pick up if a vehicle is detected on the motion, or if we wanted to, we could have vehicle and pedestrian. So I'll just leave that as that is. If you've got PIRs set up on your camera, some cameras support that. So, example, channel 1 does have PIR, which is another good feature. So we could use this to enable lights, for example. So here I can set up my PIR area. So as soon as anybody comes in this drive, walks into this area here that's marked with the red grid, I've set sensitivity level 2, so they have to be quite close. Then we can set that to on. We've set the sensitivity, and we can turn on. We could turn on our deterrence option if we wanted to as well here, and we can also control the alarm. So buzzer, for example, is the actual DVR itself that will make a beeping noise. We can use something called alarm out, which would then trigger an alarm. Do we want it to record? Yes, we do. We want post recording of 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 5 minutes. Do we want it to show a message? Do we want it to send an email? If you haven't obviously set up email, it won't do it. Do we want to send pictures to the cloud? Again, it won't do it unless you've set it up. We can set it to video to cloud. Full screen would actually, when you're watching the recorder, if there is PIR movement detection, would bring it full screen on your screen. And you could also add a voice prompt that would come out from the camera itself. So we could say, okay, we want to do that, but we only want the voice prompt between certain times. So obviously you don't want to wake your neighbours in the middle of the night. Then you can just save that there. Then under region of interest, what this does, we can enable a region of interest, and we can set that up, and we could say our region of interest is here, for example. Now what will happen, that will record at a lower resolution, but it will actually increase the resolution when there's movement into that area there. And obviously just apply the setting. Now, one thing to note is when you're using motion detection, what you need to do as well, so when you get an alert, you can actually see what caused the motion, is to go into your record, and you want to go into your record schedule here, and you want to make sure motion is highlighted for the hours that you want it to record. So what that's going to do now, that's going to say I'm going to continuously record 24 hours a day, but I will put motion markers on and record when there is motion. And obviously you do this by channel, and then you click apply, like so. And then just right click back out. So that is your channel options.